Now, Jesse, you are actually lucky. This is actually a perfect time for you to come on an episode. We've gotten probably the biggest Sabres related news, anything, rumor, in a long time, and Christian and JP are not here to talk about it. Consider yourself lucky.
I've stated before, I'm just blessed to be here. Just happy to be here and share my thoughts on the Sabres news.
Well, to jump right into it, Jeff Skinner. Without a doubt, the biggest piece of news to come out recently, something that we probably had never really given thought to, or at least when JP, Christian, and I had gotten together and talked about it, or even just addressed the idea of a possible Jeff Skinner buyout. We just kind of threw it to the side. We never really saw it as a realistic option, a possibility, and given that you were setting yourself up at face value, you're setting yourself up to take on dead money. It didn't really seem like in the MO of, I guess, a Terry Pagula-ran team, or at least a team that was trying to commit to being financially responsible. But, the more you think about it, and the more you dig into what the details of the buyout look like, you see why this is a real possibility, and you're seeing why possibly Jeff Skinner has most likely played his last game as a Buffalo Sabre. It's just sad to see that it's gotten to this point that because this is, Jeff Skinner is still a good hockey player. It's just, can you take on that contract for what he gives on the ice? And it's gotten to the point where the stakes of next season, what they are, you can't justify, you maybe just can't justify it from a certain point of view anymore.
He's still good for the team, and he's definitely someone that I wouldn't hate to have around, but I don't think he's $9 million good. And that's where this does seem like something that I'm not for or against it right now because for me at least, I feel like it depends on what they do with the cap space that they're saving. And if they're just buying him out to just get rid of the contract and then they don't really spend any of the money that they're saving, then keeping him around in a third line role possibly, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
You bring up a good point because you might ask yourself, why are the Sabres doing this? You're committing to dead money for the next 5 seasons. Everybody knows what next season is shaping up to be. Everybody knows what the stakes are. Everybody knows what they have to do. And buying him out now gives them an extra $7.5 million to play with in the offseason. And, conceivably, the idea of doing this and gaining that extra cap flexibility, you would hope that they end up spending that money. Now, if they didn't, I don't know I don't even want to think about that scenario because then it's just like, what's even the point? But yeah, you take that 7 million and you go and get, obviously you have to replace Skinner now because at the very least he's a middle six forward and has been in their top six for an extended time now. And using that money for another addition, if it's in the bottom six, or you're using it in tandem to get a top four addition. So the idea of that, getting that extra boost would be to conceivably spend as close to the cap with that extra money.
But then that is also something that I think they have to be careful about because as I just checked Cap Friendly, which I have heard is a good friend of the show, there is, I believe it's 2 years down the line where his cap hit jumps up if we buy out to 6.4, 6.5 around there. And that's definitely something that they have to be careful with when they have to re-sign Quinn and Paterka either the start of this season or if they let him go without extensions and they have to re-sign him next offseason.
Yeah. So to break down, like if they buy him out, because the buyout window is going to open on Thursday. The Stanley Cup's going to be awarded Monday night, no matter what. And then 48 hours later is when the buyout window opens. So on Thursday, we'll probably get our answer. Year one is only a $1.4 million cap hit for Skinner's dead money. But then the next 2 seasons is where you see your challenge because it jumps up to $4.4 million in 2025, 2026. And then the big one in 26, 27, it goes all the way up to $6.4 million. And that's hefty. Now, the cap's rising. You're going to be getting more money feasibly in that time from the league, but still $6 million for a player that isn't in your lineup when Quinn's going to need a contract. Peterka's going to need a contract. Byram needs an extension next summer. Levi needs one next summer. And then Alex Tuck is going to need a contract. And that's $6 million that you kind of have to avoid for a full season. But you have to, it goes back to the main point. This season, this upcoming season, is really what matters the most. And after that $6.4 million cap hit in 26-27, it's 2.4 for another 3 years. That's not going to kill you in a rising cap world. Who knows what the cap looks like in 2028, 2029.
Yeah, so that just kind of all brings it back to I'd definitely be for it if this move freeing up the round 7.5 is going towards making the team better next season.
Now, something that we discussed, or it would be our go-to response. I know Christian and I talked about it a lot. Is just hold off till next year. Do it next year. Take another season. Find out if he's really not find out if he's not a top 6 forward anymore, and then buy him out. But you look at what the salary, what the balance looks like. If you were to do it in a year's time, it's still a $4 million cap hit in 25-26, and it's still $6 million in 26-27. You still have those 2 big years. So you were never going. If you were always going to buy out Jeff Skinner, you were never going to get out of those 2 big seasons. And then the question becomes: are you a better team with him on your roster heading into next season? Are you willing to take that risk, or are you going to get bit in the ass because you didn't buy him out immediately and maybe go and spend that on a Nikolai Ehlers or Pavel Buchnevich, whoever? And the question's also been raised, why not just trade him? Well,
who's going to take that contract?
Who's going to take that contract? I mean, maybe Washington would have, given what they just did this previous week. But, who's going to want that contract? It's $9 million for 3 more seasons. For a forward that is arguably the worst defensive forward in hockey. It's too much. And above all else, he gets to control where he goes. He has the final say. And for anybody that remembers when he got traded here in 2018, he waived a no-trade clause to come to Buffalo because he's from the Toronto area. He's close to home. So you think about the teams that could conceivably take him on, say Chicago or San Jose. He's not going to waive to go all the way out west for a team that's once again in a rebuild. I mean, maybe he would play with Connor. Maybe he would want to play with Connor Bedard, but I find that highly unlikely, and it just moves him farther away from home. I mean, when he hits free agency, I will not be surprised if he hits free agency, if he signs with a Toronto or in Ottawa or Montreal. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays in the East. Maybe even Tampa Bay.
Not for $9 million, he won't, dude.
For anybody, well, we did leave that part out. Jesse is a part Tampa Bay Lightning fan.
Well, when you're a Sabres fan and they're not around in the playoffs, I kind of gravitated towards rooting for them in the April to June months the past few years. Yeah,
they've been pretty good. Hey, could be worse. There's a large contingent of Patrick Kane jerseys in this city. You could have gone down that path. So I really haven't gotten into what do I think is right. What do we think is right? Is this correct? Is this the correct decision? And is this a short-sighted? Is this a short-sighted move if they do end up doing it, or is this the smart thing that even maybe you bite the bullet in 25, 26, 26, 27, but you're still able to progress fine. For me personally, I'm for the move, but it's reluctant because I really do. I feel like they're going to struggle to compete in 26, 27, or not struggle to compete, but be the peak of what they can be with that cap hit. I mean, if you think about where you want this team to be in 2 years' time, I know it sounds crazy, but you do want them to start pushing conference finals. You want series wins. Conceivably, if you look at the season over season jump that the New Jersey Devils made with Lindy Ruff, they nearly won the division. They had what 110 points, and Carolina just beat them out. Um, Maybe you're pushing for a cup by that time, and it would really stink if $6 million of dead cap prevented you from another decent addition.
I've just from our conversation here, I've also kind of been drawn to agree that it would be the right move, but because the cap hit that he would, the dead cap hit would still be less than what they'd be paying him. And given that the guy probably doesn't want to be playing bottom 6 minutes, you probably think that his performance is going to fall off even more than it already has. So you'd still be paying him 9 million if you kept him around. So it does seem like saving the 2.5. It's just something that they have to keep in mind when they're signing all these guys, and that so it doesn't sneak up on them.
And when you're thinking about roster building, placing him in the lineup, he's just not a guy you can have in your bottom six. He's not big. He doesn't forecheck, and you can't really trust him with defensive zone starts. There's a certain way to play Jeff Skinner, and it has to be in the top six with heavy offensive zone usage, giving him offensive zone starts. And when you're building this roster, Paterka's already passed him on the depth chart, and B, his production declined, as we all know, and C, from day one, everybody was pointing to the fit with Lindy Ruff just not lining up. Lindy Ruff teams have famously been heavy on the forecheck. They're quick teams that are going to force you into pressure. I mean, that's what the Devils did so well when they broke out 2 seasons ago. They were relentless on the forecheck, and Jeff Skinner, he doesn't forecheck. He sits back, he waits for, maybe he'll do a clean takeaway, but he's waiting for others to create, and then he's going to find the soft areas. That's where he's going to hurt you. He's going to find the spot on the ice where nobody can cover him. And look, that's why he's an effective forward in the NHL. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to play. Jeff Skinner is, playoff jokes aside, like he is a great player in the NHL, and he's probably going to help a playoff contender wherever he goes. But the fit is just not there with what is lining up to be the 24 or 25 Sabres. And that's something that I think Adams sort of reflected in his press conference on Thursday. This was a pre-draft press conference, but inevitably questions were all over the place. And one of the first ones was about the Skinner rumor, because prior to then, the only reason that we had heard about this in the first place, it was Jeff Merrick, Elliot Friedman talking about it out of nowhere, which you always raise an eyebrow at, because if those two start talking about something, it's probably starting to move in that direction. And Adams didn't exactly kill that. Of all the questions he got at that press conference, I think that was the one he avoided, and just said they were open to anything. So they're talking about this, that this is a real possibility. And even one point in his answer about that question, I think he even subtly mentioned that he talked to Terry Pegula about this. So, like I said, this is something that definitely talked about. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Jeff Skinner, without a doubt, one of the most likable Sabres players throughout the drought. Maybe the most likable. I mean, unless your name is Ralph Kruger or Steve Smith, who hates Jeff Skinner? The guy is he's a joy to watch on the ice, especially when he's playing good and he's getting under the team's skin. But he's also an incredibly fun and unique player to watch. It's sad. This tenure deserved to go better if this is really the end. And I can't. He's of all the players that have left Buffalo recently from the droughts, and there's a possibility, one of the drought players is going to be lifting a Stanley Cup come Monday. Um, Jeff Skinner, I really would not. There's literally zero hate placed at his feet. Um, when you talk about guys like Eichel, Reinhardt, even Okposo, they have their if people who just dislike them or don't want to see them succeed. I just can't. I would never be able to get there with Jeff Skinner. I hope that guy wins a friggin' Conn Smythe. I only wish the best for him.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with that point. Could you say guys like Akpozo? I'm one of them. I really don't care to see him win anything, but for sure, if Skinner ever, well, if they do buy out Skinner, then I'll definitely still be rooting for him wherever he ends up.
It's been a long time. It's been 6 years in Buffalo. It's crazy to think, but it's sad to see. It's sad to see. He's a joy to watch. No more between two stalls. No more. No more.
That's the killer.
No more of his smile around the locker room. Just a shame. Just a shame.